talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So as you guys already know, the NFL draft is quickly approaching at the end of this month, and Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears have a lot of work to do to basically fill the missing roster spots that the Chicago Bears currently have. But a report out of Chicago indicates this: the Chicago Bears are expected to be aggressive on the undrafted market. And we all know that Ryan Poles has been very conservative and selective on who he wants to add to the Chicago Bears roster. He has a certain player that he's looking for, and he wants to add certain players to help bolster this roster. We already know that. And we also know that he has a plan in place, and he's trying to execute on that plan. And his plan is to build through the NFL draft. But, a huge but, he only has 6 draft picks to work with when the NFL draft starts at the end of this month. So Ryan Poles is going to have to be creative when he's looking to fill out the rest of this roster. And let me tell you guys this: Bears only have 57 players under contract, which leaves 33 spots needing to be filled ahead of the draft. And so after the draft, the Bears are set to be aggressive on the undrafted market. Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune stated his belief that the team could sign as many as 15 undrafted players. And to me, this doesn't surprise me at all, especially knowing that the Bears are in sort of a rebuilding mode, and they're currently looking for young and cheap talent. And I'll be the first one to say right here on this podcast that no, none of these undrafted free agents are going to be flashy. But if you watched my podcast yesterday, I clearly said that Ryan Poles is looking for players that are resilient. And when you look at the undrafted players, these are the players that got passed on in the NFL draft. They did not get drafted. So they're going to come in and have that chip on their shoulder, and they are going to be ready to work. They are going to be resilient. No one wants them originally, but once they hit that undrafted market, you snatch up some of these players, and maybe a couple of them can be diamonds in the rough. Obviously, we haven't seen a whole lot of stars as undrafted free agents, but it's definitely not out of the ordinary to see some of them actually pan out. And something that I want to add, because I know that a lot of you guys will probably say, well, that's kind of dumb. We're just going to have a team of a bunch of young, basically unproven talent. And my answer to that is yes, that is Ryan Poles' plan. He wants to bring in young, unproven talent, guys that are willing to work hard for the Chicago Bears team. And he is depending on Matt Eberflus and the coaching staff to develop these guys. And overall, that's how you actually build a good NFL football team. A lot of people think, oh, you just go spend all the big money and all these big name guys, right, to help your roster, which is somewhat true. But then you have these other franchises that build through the draft, that build through the undrafted market, right? And they depend on their coaches to develop these guys. And that was one of the things that Ryan Poles really liked about Matt Eberflus, and the reason why Eberflus is actually the Chicago Bears head coach. Poles likes how Eberflus is a developmental guy. He's a player's coach. He's a teaching coach. He did it with the Colts on the defense, and I feel like he's going to come to Chicago and do the exact same thing. So Ryan Poles is banking on bringing in some of these undrafted guys, right, and having the coaching staff, along with Matt Eberflus, develop these guys into hopefully future stars for the Chicago Bears. So overall, right away, yeah, we're going to have a bunch of guys that are young, with a chip on their shoulder, and ready to work. And as a fan, I am okay with that. Yes, that means it's probably going to take a couple more years. But at least I can kind of see what Ryan Poles is thinking. He's trying to fill in those roster spots, right, with guys that are young and ready to work. So, like always, how do you guys feel about this report that the Chicago Bears are expected to be aggressive on the undrafted market? Let me know down below in the comment section. And like always, guys, I understand that we have been patient for years, right? And I know a lot of our patience are wearing thin on this football team. But like I say repeatedly on every single podcast, we have to give Ryan Poles the opportunity, and Ryan Poles has a plan, and let's give him the time to try to execute that plan, and then hopefully in the long run, it works out for the Chicago Bears football team. And as a fan, like I say always, I'm just going to sit back and relax and enjoy the ride until it finally hopefully clicks, and the Chicago Bears football team has a consistent contender every single year. Before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Kick on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.